Predictions. As expected, I knew like the last 2 episodes were going to be insane. The 9th episode, with everything that was going on, has been relatively calm. But you can see the setup for things that are going to happen in the season finale. And I think the season finale is going to be everything that I expected. To begin with, I'm pretty certain it's going to open up with, I don't think we're going to see them kill Lou. But I think we'll see that, or you get the hint that like Lou's out of there. That's the first thing. And we'll likely see some of them dealing with that, right? But there's still fallout from a lot of other situations to be dealt with. From the preview clip, we see that Howard has returned to the mosque where, because of the things that he'd been into and the things that he'd done, felt guilt and whatnot, and wasn't quite ready to go back into the mosque, But we see him there now, and it's looking like the walls are closing in on him. That the task force is now looking at him, because at the end of the episode, the police captain guy pulled him in, and the FBI task force guy was there as well, and they started asking questions about Burke, and well, why did you push the dad to file this complaint with internal affairs and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, in the moment he had some answers, but those answers aren't going to hold up. Like, there's some fishy business going on there, and it would make sense for them to dig more deeply. Gerald having overdose kind of throws a monkey wrench in their plans, it would seem. Jukebox didn't have any info to give them, but there's still enough there for them to at least ask questions and try to do some digging. And I feel like the more they dig, the more they're going to find, but much of it is going to point towards Howard, because with regards to the police and law enforcement type stuff, Howard was the one handling that stuff. And as I felt would happen, like there's been little inklings along the way, and I mentioned it and discussed it in one of the previous videos, that I felt like eventually Howard and RAQ would end up turning on each other. Now, part of this is because up until the 2nd season, they really seemed to disdain each other, on RAQ's part especially, that she really didn't want Howard anywhere around her, around Kanan, right? There's no love between them. It's just a matter of they were both operating from the perspective of trying to do what was best for Kanan to keep Kanan safe. With the cops milling about Marvin, because you see there's no mention of Kanan, there's no mention of RAQ as yet. The names that are being called are Howard and Marvin, and that's where they're looking for the connection, right? And so with that, they're now looking into Howard, and Howard goes to RAQ to tell him that, like they're coming for us, and she in turn tells him, well, sounds more like they're coming for you. If you think back to it earlier this season, what really started it was that, I guess you could say in a sense, he kind of threatened her. But at the same time, she turned around and threatened him and let him know that, she could bring all of his stuff down, with regards to, because he's been the one passing along the information with regards to this whole Scrappy situation, but possibly even going back beyond that, would she tell on herself, going back to the whole situation with him fathering Kanan? I think it was at that point that Howard decided to keep back some of the information to himself, because he knew about the feds looking into Marvin at that point, but chose not to share that with RAQ then. And here you have in the 9th episode where they met up again, and RAQ kind of confronts him with this stuff that Marvin found out that the feds were looking into him. Howard would have known, and Howard has been telling her in the time since that, there's nothing to worry about, they don't have anything, when that's not really the case. And here you have it where the walls are closing in, and looks like he's turning to her now, whether it's to give her a heads up or for help or whatever it is, and she's kind of like, well, those sound like your problems and not necessarily mine. But, again, it's just a clip, so how that plays out, we might have to wait to see. Is it that they're truly turning on each other, or is it just like snarkiness between them? the guy from the task force more thoroughly questioning Howard about his connection to Marvin. And it's like building off of the end of the episode with Kanan sitting down with Snap, Crackle, and Pop. And then pretty much telling him, like, listen, your mom is bad for business and decisions have to be made. What are you willing to do about it? We see here that, granted, it's not a new clip. It looks like going back to episode 8 with RAQ, walking in and talking reckless to Snaps and Pops. But then with her shutting down their business and stuff, them wanting back that money that they invested. And, questioning Kanan, well, like, what part are you going to play in this? We see that coming back up here in the trailer for the season finale. Drama between RAQ and Kanan continues on, but it still sounds like RAQ isn't taking it for the threat that she probably should be taking it as. She's probably not thinking that things will go that far with Kanan. With Ronnie, with Snap and Pops and whatnot, yes. But she's not expecting that energy from Kanan. We see in the clip that it looks like Jukebox is out in the street. I'm curious to see what happens there. Looks like Jukebox is out in the street and someone walks up to her. It looks like they're wearing a hoodie, but points a gun at her. And the question I would have is, well, who is that person? I wouldn't think that it would be Kanan because they have some tension in their relationship, but not to that degree. Who else would have it out for Jukebox like that? Because Jukebox isn't into any like street stuff or whatever. So it's like, where exactly is that coming from? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Obviously, we know she's not going to die or anything like that. But like, I'm curious to see what's the cause of that situation. Is it like a random like mugging or robbery kind of situation? Or is it a more targeted attack? And here you have it. We see Stefano is in the mix. Snap and Pops, they hinted that like they know Stefano and they know that Stefano was backing RAQ. If they were able to speak to Joaquin and get him to agree that he would no longer supply heroin to the South Side, that he wouldn't sell heroin in the South Side, thereby shutting down. It's not really clear who his deal was with, but I'm assuming maybe with Snaps and Pops, that he made the deal with them that he wouldn't supply heroin to the South Side anymore. And you now see Stefano pops up, and Snaps and Pops, they stated that Stefano is at play right now, but he'll sit down if they tell him to. It's going to be interesting if that's what comes to pass here, because then at that point it's like Ronnie's business is then shut down, and Stefano can shut down RAQ Supply as well. So that means neither side would be making money. So I'm curious to see what exactly the deal with Stefano is. Is it that he's shutting RAQ down because of pressure from Snaps and Pops? What exactly is going on here? And it's like you can feel the mounting tension between RAQ and Kanan. And she mentioned in the episode that him threatening, really by way of Ronnie, the social worker, wasn't a smart move. And that, she makes one more phone call that they'll come and grab him up and they'll send him upstate, to some juvenile center or whatever it is. And he then replied, well, there's someplace they can send you. I remember that from the previous clip, and I thought that it was more of like a threat to do her harm, but it sounds more like, well, if they can send me to juvie, they can send you to jail as well, because you've got secrets and you've got things that you've done. He has been called upon by Snaps and Pop to kind of make a decision about where his loyalties are going to lie, and we see that here. But curious to see how that plays out, as we see that him and RAQ do meet up again. And she's telling him that, he doesn't know what he's doing. And then just a clip later, which we saw this in the trailer for the season, RAQ has had the same vehicle the entire show. that tannish, what is this, like Land Cruiser or something like that, the entire show. And we saw from the trailer for the season that someone was going to shoot it up. And with all this drama, I knew that that scene was coming. And we see it pop up here again, but from a different perspective, where in the trailer for the season, it was shown from the outside of the vehicle, her car seemingly stopped or parked on the street or whatever it is, and another vehicle pulling up alongside it and opening fire, right? Shooting into the driver's side of the vehicle. But here we see it from inside the vehicle, where we see RAQ inside the vehicle looking out, and you see the other vehicle pull up and open fire with her seemingly leaning out of the way, like seeing it coming, but not seeing it early enough to either drive away or do something. So nobody is safe, right? And as we said throughout, the only people that have to survive the show are Kanan and Jukebox. They can take losses along the way. They can get hurt along the way, but they can't die, right? So they're safe. We know neither one of them is going to die. But we see Lou is seemingly dead, right? Howard looks like he's got some problems on his hands. It was looking like Marvin might go to jail for a moment, but for right now, at least, he's still out here running around. But if Lou can die, if Unique can die, we certainly know that at some point in time, RAQ and Marvin can go as well, whether that be jail or that they get killed. And I'm looking forward to next week's episode to see, well, does RAQ get hit? Does she die? What happens? Curious to see from there. Now, I will say, I like the show, but from the very beginning, never mind it's called Raising Kanan, I thought Kanan was okay in like the first season. I've grown to kind of find it, but it's like, he was like a little kid, and not a little kid, but he was like a teenager. And it's like, his story was more like teeny bopper stuff. Sure, he was getting into the streets, but it's like, I didn't take as much interest in him as I took in the adults, right? In his mom and uncles. And it's like, even like Jukebox, I liked a bit more. And it's like, as the seasons have gone on, I don't really care for Kanan like that, And I feel like I can see where it would make sense to kill RAQ and to kill Marvin. It certainly makes sense to kill Lou. But I feel like if there's no RAQ and Marvin, I still like Jukebox, but I don't know that I would like her enough to then watch the show, because I don't really care about Kanan like that. I feel like I've gotten so vested in these other characters, and I find them far more interesting. It's not even a matter of being likable, because like RAQ kind of annoys me at points, but it's like I find them far more interesting than I do Kanan. And I think like Kanan on his own, I don't see me being much interested in the show beyond that. Because Kanan in the original Power wasn't that interesting to me either. And it's like, if it's just him running amok and Ronnie killing somebody every other episode, I just don't think that's going to be particularly interesting. So I'm curious to see what happens in the final episode, as that'll likely determine whether or not I continue to be interested in the show. So, but certainly looking forward to it. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So, tune in tomorrow. Let's see.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.